Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where we transform ancient wisdom into daily practices that actually work in your modern life. I'm here to bridge the gap between the timeless teachings of history's greatest philosophers and the real challenges you face every single day in our fast-paced world. Our mission at Stoic Vivu centers on one powerful belief. The most profound philosophical insights mean absolutely nothing unless you can apply them when your boss criticizes your work, when traffic makes you late for an important meeting, or when someone you trusted disappoints you deeply. Ancient Stoic philosophy offers the most practical framework ever developed for achieving genuine inner peace, but only when you understand how to integrate these teachings into your actual daily routine. Today, we're exploring 6 specific daily habits that will fundamentally change how you experience stress, conflict, and uncertainty. These aren't just feel-good concepts or abstract philosophical theories. Each habit represents a concrete practice that the ancient Stoics used to maintain their composure during wars, political upheavals, and personal tragedies that would break most people. The brilliant philosopher Epictetus taught us something revolutionary. It's not the events in your life that upset you, but rather your opinions and judgments about those events. This insight forms the foundation of everything we'll discover together today. When you truly understand this principle and learn to apply it consistently, you develop an unshakable inner peace that no external circumstance can disturb. Here's what makes these 6 habits so powerful. They're designed to work together as a complete system for daily living. You'll start each morning with a practice that opens your mind to learning and growth. Throughout your day, you'll consciously choose influences that strengthen your character rather than drain your energy. When difficult people challenge you, you'll have specific strategies for turning those encounters into opportunities for developing patience and wisdom. You'll learn to catch your emotions before they spiral out of control, and you'll discover how to transform every obstacle into a stepping stone toward your goals. The ancient Stoics understood something that modern life often makes us forget. True strength comes not from avoiding difficulties, but from developing the character and skills to handle whatever life presents with grace and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire while facing plagues, wars, and betrayals, wrote in his personal journal that our life is shaped by our thoughts. Seneca, despite experiencing exile and political persecution, discovered that our attention determines our character. These weren't philosophers sitting in ivory towers theorizing about life. They were people facing real challenges, real pressures, and real setbacks who developed practical tools for maintaining their inner peace and continuing to act with virtue regardless of circumstances. Over the next several sections, you'll discover exactly how to implement each of these 6 transformative habits. Remember, the goal isn't to become perfect overnight. The goal is to begin building a daily practice that gradually strengthens your ability to find peace and wisdom in the midst of whatever chaos surrounds you. Each habit builds upon the previous one, creating a comprehensive approach to living that will serve you well no matter what challenges tomorrow brings your way. Habit 1. Start each day by questioning what you think you know. You wake up on a Tuesday morning in your Chicago apartment, confident that today's presentation will go smoothly because you've prepared thoroughly. You know your material inside and out. You understand your audience. You're certain about your approach. But as you grab your coffee and check your phone, you discover an email from your colleague suggesting a completely different strategy that you hadn't even considered. Your first instinct? Dismiss it immediately. After all, you've already figured this out. This moment reveals one of the most dangerous obstacles to wisdom and inner peace: the belief that you already know everything you need to know. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus observed something profound about human nature when he declared, "It is impossible to learn that which you think you already know." This isn't just philosophical theory. It's a practical insight that can transform how you approach every single day of your life. Consider how this plays out in your daily experience. You walk into a team meeting assuming you understand the project's challenges, only to discover that your perspective was incomplete. You approach a conversation with your partner believing you know exactly what they're feeling, missing crucial emotional cues because you stopped truly listening. You tackle a problem at work using the same methods that worked before, failing to recognize that circumstances have changed and require fresh thinking. Epictetus understood that intellectual humility serves as the gateway to all genuine learning and growth. When you operate from a place of certainty, you close yourself off to new information, different perspectives, and better solutions. Your ego creates a protective barrier that prevents wisdom from entering, leaving you stuck with outdated knowledge and ineffective approaches. The great philosopher Socrates exemplified this principle through his famous declaration that his wisdom came not from what he knew, but from recognizing what he didn't know. The Socratic method, which involves asking probing questions rather than making definitive statements, revolutionized learning precisely because it acknowledged the limitations of human knowledge. Questions open doors that statements keep locked. Think about the last time someone tried to correct you or offer feedback. Notice how quickly your mind jumped to defend your original position rather than genuinely considering their perspective. This defensive response, while natural, blocks the very learning that could improve your life. When you start each day by questioning your assumptions, you create space for growth, correction, and genuine wisdom to emerge. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire while studying Stoic philosophy, regularly practiced intellectual humility despite his immense power and responsibility. In his personal writings, he constantly questioned his own judgments and sought to understand different viewpoints. This practice didn't make him weak or indecisive. It made him wiser and more effective as both a leader and a human being. Seneca taught that true strength comes from admitting when you're wrong and remaining open to better ideas. He understood that pride and defensiveness create unnecessary suffering, while humility opens pathways to peace and understanding. When you can say, "I don't know," or "I might be wrong," you immediately reduce the pressure of having to be perfect and create opportunities for authentic connection with others. Here's how to implement this transformative habit in your daily routine. Each morning, before checking your phone or diving into your tasks, spend 5 minutes identifying 3 things you think you know for certain about the day ahead. Maybe you're convinced that your commute will take exactly 25 minutes, that your coworker will react negatively to your proposal, or that you understand your teenager's mood based on their behavior last night. Write these assumptions down, then deliberately question each one. Ask yourself, what evidence supports this belief? What alternative explanations might exist? What am I not considering? This isn't about becoming paralyzed by doubt. It's about maintaining mental flexibility that allows you to respond wisely to whatever actually unfolds. Throughout your day, practice asking questions instead of making statements when possible. Instead of saying, "This won't work," try asking what would need to change for this to work. Rather than declaring, "They don't understand," consider asking, "What am I not communicating clearly?" This shift from certainty to curiosity transforms potential conflicts into opportunities for learning and connection. Pay attention to moments when you feel defensive or resistant to feedback. These feelings often signal that your ego is trying to protect what you think you know. Use these moments as cues to pause, breathe, and consciously choose openness over defensiveness. Remember that being wrong about something doesn't diminish your worth as a person. It simply provides valuable information for making better decisions. The ancient Stoics recognized that intellectual humility leads directly to inner peace because it eliminates the exhausting need to be right about everything. When you can comfortably acknowledge uncertainty and embrace learning, you free yourself from the stress of defending positions that might be incorrect or incomplete. This habit creates a ripple effect throughout your relationships and professional life. Colleagues appreciate working with someone who listens genuinely and considers different perspectives. Family members feel heard and valued when you approach conversations with curiosity rather than assumptions. Friends trust you more when they see that you're willing to admit mistakes and learn from them. Ultimately, starting each day by questioning what you think you know transforms your entire approach to living. Instead of rigidly clinging to predetermined ideas, you become flexible and responsive. Instead of feeling threatened by new information, you welcome it as an opportunity for growth. This openness doesn't make you weak or uncertain. It makes you wise, adaptable, and genuinely confident in your ability to handle whatever life presents. Habit 2. Choose your daily influences like your life depends on it. You're sitting in your Los Angeles apartment at 7 in the morning, scrolling through your phone before starting your day. Within minutes, you've absorbed a dozen angry political posts, 3 celebrity scandals, 2 stories about economic disasters, and endless advertisements promising to solve problems you didn't know you had. By the time you finish your coffee, your mind feels scattered, anxious, and somehow both overwhelmed and empty. You haven't even left your home yet, but you're already carrying the emotional weight of 1,000 strangers' opinions and fears. This daily ritual that millions of Americans perform without thinking represents one of the most powerful yet overlooked forces shaping our character, mood, and overall quality of life. The ancient Stoics understood something that modern neuroscience has confirmed. You literally become what you consistently focus your attention upon. Your brain rewires itself based on the thoughts, images, and ideas you regularly consume, making your daily influences not just entertainment choices but fundamental decisions about who you want to become. Marcus Aurelius captured this profound truth when he wrote that our life is what our thoughts make it. He wasn't speaking metaphorically or offering empty inspiration. He was describing a psychological reality that determines everything from your emotional state to your decision-making patterns. When you flood your mind with polarizing content, you become more polarized. When you immerse yourself in celebrity gossip and superficial drama, you develop a superficial approach to your own life. When you constantly consume stories of failure and fear, you begin to see the world primarily through the lens of threat and scarcity. The Stoics recognized that attention functions like nutrition for the soul. Just as your body becomes healthy or unhealthy based on what you eat, your character becomes virtuous or chaotic based on what you feed your mind. This understanding leads to a revolutionary approach to daily living, treating your attention as your most precious resource and guarding it more carefully than you guard your wallet or your home. Consider how this principle plays out in your relationships and professional life. If you spend your mornings reading about political outrage and social media conflicts, You approach your coworkers and family members with a mindset primed for conflict and division. If you begin each day by consuming stories of personal growth and human achievement, you enter your interactions with optimism and possibility. The difference isn't just in your mood. It's in your fundamental capacity to build meaningful connections and solve problems creatively. Seneca observed that we are shaped not only by our own experiences, but by the experiences we absorb from others through stories, conversations, and observations. This means that every podcast you listen to, every news article you read, and every social media account you follow is actively participating in the formation of your character. When you choose influences randomly or passively, you allow external forces to determine your internal development. When you choose consciously and deliberately, you take control of your own growth. The transformation begins with an honest assessment of your current influences. For the next 3 days, track everything you consume mentally and emotionally. Notice not just what you read and watch, but how each piece of content affects your energy, mood, and perspective. Pay attention to which influences leave you feeling empowered and inspired versus which ones leave you feeling drained, angry, or anxious. Most people discover that they've been unconsciously choosing influences that make them feel worse rather than better. The endless stream of breaking news, social media drama, and negative entertainment might feel engaging in the moment, but it creates a baseline state of stress and pessimism that colors every other aspect of life. This revelation provides the motivation for making different choices. Creating a positive influence environment requires both elimination and addition. Begin by removing or limiting exposure to sources that consistently promote fear, anger, or superficiality. This doesn't mean avoiding all challenging content or difficult truths. It means being selective about how and when you engage with heavy topics. Instead of passive consumption of whatever appears in your feed, actively choose specific times and sources for staying informed about important issues. Replace the eliminated influences with content that strengthens the qualities you want to develop. If you want to become more patient, seek out stories and teachings about patience. If you want to develop courage, immerse yourself in accounts of people who have demonstrated courage. If you want to build wisdom, spend time with the thoughts and experiences of wise individuals throughout history. The ancient Stoics particularly valued reading the works of virtuous people and surrounding themselves with individuals who challenged them to grow. Marcus Aurelius regularly read philosophy. Seneca studied the lives of great individuals, and Epictetus emphasized learning from teachers who embodied the principles they taught. They understood that character development requires conscious exposure to examples of excellence. This habit extends beyond media consumption to include the people you spend time with regularly. The Stoics taught that we absorb qualities from our companions, whether we realize it or not. Notice whether your regular interactions tend to involve gossip, complaints, and negativity, or whether they center on growth, problem-solving, and mutual support. Gradually shift toward relationships and conversations that inspire you to become your best self. Technology offers unprecedented access to wisdom and inspiration, but it also provides unlimited opportunities for distraction and deterioration. Use this power deliberately by creating curated feeds of educational content, following accounts that share meaningful insights, and subscribing to resources that align with your values and goals. Treat your digital environment like your physical environment. Keep it clean, organized, and filled with things that serve your well-being. The results of consciously choosing your daily influences compound over time in remarkable ways. Your baseline mood improves, your decision-making becomes clearer, and your relationships deepen. You develop genuine confidence that comes from regularly absorbing stories of human potential rather than human failure. Most importantly, you reclaim agency over your own mental and emotional development, becoming an active participant in your growth rather than a passive recipient of whatever content happens to cross your path. Habit 3. Practice being better than those who hurt you. You walk into your office on a Wednesday morning to discover that your colleague has taken credit for your project idea in a presentation to senior management. The proposal you spent weeks developing, the research you conducted on your own time, the creative solution you believed would advance your career, all attributed to someone else while you weren't in the room to defend yourself. Your blood pressure rises, your jaw clenches, and every fiber of your being wants to march into that conference room and expose the truth. The desire for revenge feels not just justified but necessary. This moment represents one of the most challenging tests of character that life regularly presents. When someone betrays your trust, steals your work, or treats you unfairly, your natural human response demands justice, vindication, and often retaliation. Yet the ancient Stoics discovered something revolutionary about revenge that transforms how we handle these inevitable injuries. The best revenge is not to be like the person who wronged you. Marcus Aurelius, who faced countless betrayals and disappointments as Roman emperor, wrote extensively about this principle in his personal reflections. He understood that when you respond to injury with injury, when you meet dishonesty with dishonesty, when you answer cruelty with cruelty, you become exactly like the person you despise. The very act of revenge transforms you into the thing you're fighting against, creating a destructive cycle that ultimately damages your own character more than it punishes your enemy. This insight reveals a profound truth about human psychology and spiritual development. The people who hurt you are already living with the consequences of their choices. Your dishonest colleague must navigate the world knowing that their success comes from deception. They must maintain elaborate lies, manage the anxiety of being exposed, and live with the fundamental insecurity that comes from knowing they haven't earned their achievements. The person who betrayed your trust has to exist in relationships built on false foundations, never experiencing the deep peace that comes from genuine integrity. When you choose to respond with character rather than retaliation, you immediately demonstrate your superiority without having to prove it through confrontation. This doesn't mean becoming passive or failing to protect yourself. It means choosing responses that maintain your integrity while addressing the situation effectively. You can document the theft of your work, speak privately with management about proper attribution, and take steps to prevent future incidents, all without compromising your own moral standards. Seneca taught that revenge actually gives your enemy power over you twice. First when they hurt you, and again when you sacrifice your peace and character trying to hurt them back. He observed that angry, vindictive people are essentially slaves to those who wrong them, allowing past injuries to control their present actions and future decisions. By choosing to respond with wisdom rather than retaliation, you reclaim your freedom and demonstrate mastery over your own emotions and choices. The practice of being better than those who hurt you begins with understanding what better actually means in practical terms. It means responding to dishonesty with honesty, meeting cruelty with kindness, and answering betrayal with integrity. This approach doesn't make you weak or naive. It makes you powerful in a way that revenge never could. When you maintain your character standards regardless of how others behave, you develop an unshakable sense of self that no external circumstance can disturb. Consider how this plays out in your family relationships. When a relative makes cutting remarks about your life choices during a holiday gathering, your instinct might be to respond with equally hurtful comments about their failures and shortcomings. But choosing to respond with patience and understanding, perhaps even compassion for whatever pain is driving their behavior, maintains your dignity while often disarming the conflict entirely. You walk away from the interaction feeling good about how you handled yourself, while they're left to grapple with their own negativity. This principle applies equally to minor daily irritations and major life betrayals. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you can choose to respond with aggressive driving and angry gestures, or you can recognize that their behavior reflects their internal state and maintain your own peace. When a friend spreads gossip about you, you can choose to retaliate with gossip about them, or you can address the situation directly while maintaining your commitment to honest communication. The transformation happens gradually as you develop what the Stoics called moral immunity. Just as physical immunity protects your body from disease, moral immunity protects your character from being contaminated by others' poor choices. You begin to see clearly that other people's behavior reveals their character, not yours, and that your response reveals your character, not theirs. Implementing this habit requires daily practice with small situations that prepare you for larger challenges. When someone is rude to you at the grocery store, practice responding with kindness. When a driver behaves aggressively on the road, practice maintaining your calm. When a coworker takes credit for your contribution in a meeting, practice addressing the situation professionally without letting anger drive your response. The most profound aspect of this practice is how it transforms your relationship with suffering itself. Instead of seeing injuries and betrayals as purely negative experiences, you begin to recognize them as opportunities to demonstrate and develop your character. Each person who treats you poorly becomes, in a sense, a training partner who helps you build moral strength and emotional resilience. Marcus Aurelius understood that the people who hurt us often become our greatest teachers, not because of their wisdom, but because of how they challenge us to rise above our natural impulses and choose virtue instead of vengeance. This realization transforms every difficult relationship and challenging interaction into a chance to become more patient, more kind, more understanding, and ultimately more free from the need for external validation or revenge. Habit 4. Turn every difficult person into your training partner. You're standing in line at the New York City DMV, finally reaching the front after waiting for 2 hours, when the clerk behind the counter looks up with obvious irritation and snaps. This form isn't filled out correctly. You'll have to start over and get back in line. Your carefully controlled morning schedule crumbles as you realize you'll be here for another 2 hours because of one missing checkmark. Every instinct screams at you to argue, to point out how ridiculous this requirement is, to match their rudeness with your own frustration. But what if this moment, this difficult person, could become something entirely different than an obstacle to your peace? Marcus Aurelius discovered something revolutionary about human relationships that transforms how we experience conflict and frustration. In his most famous teaching, he wrote that the impediment to action advances action, and what stands in the way becomes the way. While this principle applies to all obstacles in life, he specifically emphasized that difficult people represent our greatest opportunities to develop patience, kindness, generosity, and strength of character. Every challenging interaction becomes a gymnasium for the soul, where you can build virtues that serve you throughout your entire life. This concept requires a fundamental shift in perspective about what difficult people actually represent in your daily experience. Instead of seeing them as interruptions to your peace or threats to your goals, you begin to recognize them as training equipment provided by life itself. Just as a weightlifter needs resistance to build muscle, you need interpersonal challenges to build character. The person who tests your patience teaches you patience. The individual who challenges your kindness helps you develop deeper compassion. The colleague who frustrates you with their inefficiency provides practice in maintaining grace under pressure. Epictetus, who faced tremendous hardships including slavery and physical disability, taught that we were placed on this earth specifically to work with other people, even when those people are difficult, unreasonable, or unkind. He understood that avoiding challenging relationships might feel easier in the moment, but it prevents the character development that comes only through sustained practice of virtue under pressure. The DMV clerk who treats you rudely becomes your patience instructor. The neighbor who plays music too loudly becomes your tolerance teacher. The family member who always finds something to criticize becomes your compassion coach. This perspective doesn't mean accepting abuse or failing to set appropriate boundaries. Rather, it means approaching difficult interactions with a mindset focused on what you can learn and how you can grow, rather than on how you can win or prove your point. When someone treats you poorly, your first internal question shifts from, "How can I make them stop?" to, "How can I respond in a way that develops my character and potentially improves this situation?" Consider how this training mentality transforms a typical workplace conflict. You're in a meeting where a coworker consistently interrupts you and dismisses your ideas. Your natural response might involve interrupting them back, becoming defensive, or developing resentment that poisons future interactions. But when you view this person as your training partner, you recognize an opportunity to practice listening more deeply, communicating more clearly, and maintaining your composure under pressure. Their difficult behavior becomes the resistance that strengthens your professional skills and emotional intelligence. The ancient Stoics understood that this practice serves a dual purpose. While you're developing your own character through challenging interactions, you're also modeling behavior that sometimes influences others to improve their own responses. When you meet aggression with calm confidence, rudeness with patient kindness, and criticism with thoughtful consideration, you often create space for better outcomes than would have emerged from a purely reactive approach. Your training partner sometimes becomes genuinely easier to work with, not because you demanded change, but because you demonstrated a better way of being. Implementing this habit requires recognizing difficult encounters as they unfold and consciously choosing your training focus for each situation. When someone cuts in front of you in line, you might decide to practice patience and perspective-taking, considering what stress or urgency might be driving their behavior. When a family member makes a cutting remark during dinner, you could use the moment to practice forgiveness and understanding, remembering that hurt people often hurt people. When a customer service representative seems unhelpful, you might focus on developing persistence and clear communication skills. The transformation becomes evident as you start looking forward to challenging interactions rather than dreading them. This doesn't mean you enjoy conflict or seek out difficult people, but rather that you feel confident in your ability to handle whatever interpersonal challenges arise. You develop what the Stoics called moral courage, the strength to maintain your values and character regardless of how others choose to behave around you. This practice also reveals how much energy we typically waste trying to control other people's behavior instead of focusing on our own responses. When you accept that difficult people will always exist and that their behavior reflects their character, not yours, you stop wasting emotional energy on futile attempts to change them. Instead, you invest that energy in becoming the kind of person who can maintain peace, kindness, and effectiveness regardless of external circumstances. The most profound benefit of this habit emerges over time as you realize that no person or situation can truly disturb your inner peace unless you allow it. Every difficult encounter becomes proof of your growing strength and wisdom rather than evidence of the world's problems. You develop genuine confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever interpersonal challenges life presents, transforming you from someone who fears conflict into someone who sees every relationship as an opportunity for growth. Habit 5. Check your emotions before they check you. You're driving through downtown Miami when someone suddenly cuts in front of you without signaling, causing you to slam on your brakes and spill coffee on your white shirt before an important client meeting. Instantly, your heart rate spikes, your face flushes with anger, and a stream of aggressive thoughts floods your mind about inconsiderate drivers and how this person has ruined your entire day. You spend the next 20 minutes replaying the incident, imagining confrontational scenarios, and arriving at your meeting still agitated and distracted. Hours later, you realize that a 5-second traffic incident consumed more of your mental energy than the actual business presentation you worked weeks to prepare. This scenario illustrates one of the most crucial insights that Marcus Aurelius discovered through years of careful self-observation. Our emotional reactions to events often cause more suffering than the events themselves. In his personal writings, he noted that when we examine our problems honestly, we frequently find that our anger, anxiety, worry, and frustration about situations create more difficulty than the actual circumstances we're facing. The traffic incident didn't ruin your day. Your emotional response to the traffic incident ruined your day. This revelation points toward a transformative understanding about the nature of emotions and their role in our daily experience. Emotions are not facts about reality, nor are they commands that must be obeyed. They are information about our internal state that we can acknowledge, evaluate, and choose how to respond to. The ancient Stoics developed sophisticated techniques for emotional regulation, not because they wanted to become emotionless, but because they recognized that unchecked emotions often lead to poor decisions, damaged relationships, and unnecessary suffering. Marcus Aurelius understood that strong emotions function like a hijacking system for rational thought. When anger takes control, you make decisions you later regret. When anxiety dominates your thinking, you see threats that don't exist and miss opportunities that do. When worry consumes your attention, you become unable to focus on the present moment where solutions actually exist. These emotional states don't improve situations. They typically make them worse while creating additional problems that didn't exist before. Consider how this pattern plays out in your relationships and professional life. You receive a critical email from your supervisor and immediately feel defensive anger rising. Instead of reading the feedback carefully and considering whether it contains useful information, you craft a defensive response that escalates the conflict and damages your working relationship. Your emotional reaction to the criticism creates more problems than the original criticism itself. Or imagine discovering that your partner made a financial decision without consulting you. Your immediate anxiety and anger lead to an argument that lasts for days, causing more relationship damage than the original financial decision ever could have. The practice of checking your emotions before they check you begins with developing awareness of your emotional patterns and triggers. Start paying attention to the gap between when something happens and when you feel the emotional response building. This space exists in every emotional reaction, though it often feels instantaneous. In that brief moment, you have the power to choose your response rather than being controlled by automatic emotional reactions. Seneca taught a powerful technique for emotional regulation that involves pausing to ask yourself 3 critical questions when you feel strong emotions rising. First, ask whether the emotion you're experiencing is actually helping solve the problem or improve the situation. In most cases, you'll discover that anger, anxiety, and worry are not contributing anything useful to your circumstances. Second, consider whether the intensity of your emotional response matches the actual importance of the situation. Often, we react to minor inconveniences as if they were major crises, wasting emotional energy that could be better used elsewhere. Third, ask yourself what response would serve your long-term goals and values rather than just releasing immediate emotional pressure. This doesn't mean suppressing or denying your emotions, which is both unhealthy and ineffective. Instead, it means acknowledging what you're feeling while maintaining the freedom to choose how you express and act on those feelings. You can feel angry about unfair treatment while choosing to address the situation calmly and professionally. You can experience anxiety about an uncertain outcome while continuing to take productive action rather than spiraling into worry. You can feel disappointed about a setback while maintaining perspective about its actual significance in the larger context of your life. The Stoics developed specific daily practices for building emotional resilience and regulation skills. Each evening, spend a few minutes reviewing moments during the day when strong emotions arose. Notice which situations tend to trigger intense reactions and consider whether those reactions served you well. This isn't about judging yourself harshly for having emotions, but rather about building awareness of your patterns so you can make more conscious choices going forward. Practice the pause technique throughout your day. When you feel anger, anxiety, or frustration building, take 3 deep breaths before responding. Use those few seconds to remember your values and long-term goals. Then choose a response that aligns with who you want to be rather than just expressing what you feel in the moment. This small practice builds emotional intelligence and self-control that serve you in every area of life. Ultimately, checking your emotions before they check you develops what the Stoics called inner freedom. You become free from being controlled by external circumstances because you've learned to regulate your internal responses. This freedom doesn't eliminate challenges from your life, but it ensures that your reactions to challenges don't create additional unnecessary suffering. You maintain your power to choose responses that serve your well-being and relationships, regardless of what emotions you're experiencing in any given moment. Habit 6. Transform every obstacle into your next opportunity. You receive the devastating news on a Thursday afternoon. The startup you've worked at for 3 years is shutting down. Your position is eliminated, your equity is worthless, and the project you believed would define your career has crumbled. As you pack your belongings into a cardboard box, watching colleagues exchange tearful goodbyes, everything feels like a failure. The comfortable salary, the promising trajectory, the sense of security you'd built, all gone. Your first instinct is to see this as pure loss, a setback that will require months or years to recover from. But what if this apparent disaster could become the catalyst for something better than you ever imagined? This scenario embodies the most challenging yet transformative principle that Marcus Aurelius discovered during his reign as Roman emperor. While managing plagues, wars, and political upheavals that would crush most leaders, he developed the insight that the impediment to action advances action, and what stands in the way becomes the way. This wasn't mere philosophical optimism or positive thinking. It was a practical strategy for turning life's inevitable obstacles into opportunities for growth, innovation, and advancement. Marcus Aurelius understood that obstacles serve a purpose in human development that comfort and ease cannot provide. When everything goes according to plan, you remain within your existing capabilities and comfort zones. But when circumstances force you to adapt, innovate, and overcome challenges, you develop new skills, discover hidden strengths, and often find paths that lead to outcomes far superior to your original plans. The job loss that seems catastrophic might force you to start the business you have always dreamed about. The relationship that ends painfully might free you to find a partnership that truly fulfills you. The health challenge that frightens you might motivate lifestyle changes that add decades to your life. This principle requires understanding the difference between what happens to you and what you do with what happens to you. You cannot control whether your company shuts down, whether your relationship ends, or whether you face health challenges. But you maintain complete control over how you interpret these events and what actions you take in response to them. The same job loss that devastates one person becomes the launching pad for another person's most successful career phase. The difference lies not in the circumstances, but in the mindset and response. Seneca taught that every obstacle contains within it the seeds of equivalent or greater benefit, but only for those who approach challenges with wisdom and determination rather than despair and resignation. He observed that people who learn to extract value from setbacks develop a resilience and adaptability that serves them throughout their entire lives. They become anti-fragile, growing stronger through stress rather than being weakened by it. Consider how this transformation works in practical terms. When you lose your job, you're forced to evaluate your career path, update your skills, and explore opportunities you might never have considered while comfortable in your previous position. Many people discover that job loss leads to better positions, career changes that align more closely with their values, or the motivation to start businesses that provide more fulfillment and financial success than their previous employment ever could have. The key to implementing this habit lies in developing what the Stoics called the discipline of perception. When you encounter an obstacle, your initial response typically focuses on what you're losing, what's going wrong, or how the situation threatens your plans. This natural reaction, while understandable, prevents you from seeing the opportunities that every challenge creates. Training yourself to ask different questions transforms your entire experience of setbacks. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" begin asking, "What can this teach me?" Rather than focusing on, "What am I losing?" shift your attention to what new possibilities does this create. Instead of lamenting, "This ruins my plans," consider, "How might this lead to something better than my original plans?" These questions redirect your mental energy from despair toward discovery, from victimhood toward empowerment. The practice requires patience because the benefits of obstacles often become apparent only with time and perspective. The business failure that seems devastating today might be the experience that teaches you crucial lessons for your next, more successful venture. The health scare that terrifies you now might become the wake-up call that motivates the lifestyle changes that ultimately save your life. The rejection that hurts deeply today might redirect you toward opportunities that prove far better suited to your talents and goals. Marcus Aurelius discovered that this approach to obstacles creates a profound psychological shift in how you experience life itself. Instead of living in fear of setbacks and challenges, you begin to approach them with curiosity and confidence. You develop trust in your ability to find benefit in any situation, which eliminates much of the anxiety that comes from trying to control uncontrollable circumstances. This doesn't mean you seek out problems or become reckless, but rather that you maintain your peace and effectiveness regardless of what challenges arise. Implementing this habit requires daily practice with smaller obstacles that prepare you for larger challenges. When traffic makes you late, look for the opportunity to practice patience or use the extra time for reflection. When a project at work faces unexpected complications, treat it as a chance to develop problem-solving skills and demonstrate resilience. When a friend cancels plans, use the free time for activities you've been postponing. These small practices build the mental muscles needed to transform major setbacks into breakthrough opportunities. And here is your 30-day challenge to master these ancient habits. You now possess 6 powerful habits that have transformed lives for over 2,000 years, from ancient Roman emperors to modern professionals navigating the complexities of contemporary life. These aren't just philosophical concepts to admire from a distance. They represent a complete system for achieving genuine inner peace regardless of external circumstances. The question that determines everything is whether you'll apply these insights consistently enough to experience their life-changing effects. The ancient Stoics understood that knowledge without application remains worthless, like owning a toolbox but never using the tools to build anything meaningful. Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about these principles in his journal. He practiced them daily while managing the pressures of ruling an empire. Seneca didn't merely teach about attention and character formation. He applied these insights throughout his career in politics and business. Epictetus didn't simply discuss intellectual humility. He embodied it despite facing slavery and physical hardship that would crush most people's spirits. Your transformation begins with a commitment to practicing these 6 habits consistently for the next 30 days. Each morning, start by questioning what you think you know about the day ahead, maintaining the intellectual humility that opens your mind to learning and growth. Throughout your day, consciously choose influences that strengthen your character rather than drain your energy. When people treat you poorly, practice being better than those who hurt you, demonstrating moral superiority through your responses rather than seeking revenge. Transform every difficult person into your training partner for developing patience, kindness, and strength. Check your emotions before they check you, maintaining your freedom to choose wise responses rather than being controlled by automatic reactions. Finally, approach every obstacle as your next opportunity, trusting in your ability to extract benefit from any challenge life presents. The beauty of this 30-day challenge lies in how these habits reinforce each other throughout your daily experience. Questioning your assumptions makes you more open to choosing better influences. Conscious influence selection strengthens your ability to respond wisely to difficult people. Managing challenging relationships builds emotional regulation skills. Better emotional control helps you see obstacles as opportunities rather than threats. Each habit makes the others easier and more effective, creating an upward spiral of growth and inner peace. Track your progress by noting which situations trigger your old reactive patterns and celebrating moments when you successfully apply these new approaches. Remember that mastery develops gradually through consistent practice rather than perfect execution from the beginning. The goal isn't to become a perfect Stoic overnight, but to steadily build character and wisdom that serve you throughout your entire life. As you embark on this transformative journey, you're joining a community of people committed to applying ancient wisdom to modern challenges. If this content has provided value in your life, I encourage you to subscribe to the Stoic Vivu channel, where we regularly explore practical applications of timeless philosophical principles. Like this video to help others discover these life-changing insights, and share it with anyone who might benefit from developing greater inner peace and resilience. Comment below about which habit resonates most strongly with you, or share your experiences as you begin implementing these practices. Your engagement helps create a supportive community where we can all learn from each other's journey toward wisdom and inner peace. The ancient Stoics believed that philosophy should make you a better person, not just a more knowledgeable one. These 6 habits offer you the tools to achieve that transformation, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment at a time.